Hey guys, my name is Sam and today I will try to show beginner pvp'ers or less experienced pilots how to find solo PvP or how to find fights. I'll be splitting this tutorial in 4 parts. In this video we'll be talking about the basics, aka how to fly, what tools to use, where to go, and whatever else I can think about along the way. After, in the upcoming videos, we will talk in parts about every security levels and how you can approach players to get fights. Specifically, high sec, low sec, and no sec. I will try to brush a bit on wormhole space in this video because V space is either easy or complicated to damn near impossible to find solo fights, apart from just an easy kill mark for you or the other guy. Alright, so first and foremost, let's talk about the type of ship I'd recommend flying to maximize your solo potential as a new pilot. If you are an experienced pilot, you're probably not watching this, but just to be sure, this info is not for you. The main key when it comes to solo PvP is to generally be a juicy target for everyone. By that I mean not just being something that will make people say, hey, there's that guy in X ship, let's form up, go and kill him because it's gonna be a nice kill now. No, being something that everyone will say, yeah, I can take that guy by myself and it'll probably be a good fight or a nice kill now. For that, the general ship to go with is a Tech 1 frigate, destroyer, or cruiser. But for the purpose of this video, we will stick to frigates because they are more prevalent. Also, there are certain ships, even between the Tech 1 of those listed, that are considered either hard to kill alone or will significantly reduce your odds for a solo fight. Among these, the few I can list off the top of my head as an example would be the Dragoon and the Algos. Also, most cruisers, if you're not in a cruiser yourself. The Dragoon, because it is known that it will have neutralizers fitted. So that effectively means cap-dependent ships will not engage you solo. And the Algos, because it's a standard heavy tank ship with a lot of utility in high slots and good drone damage. What that means in essence, if you're flying one of these ships, you're effectively cutting off at least half of the percent of the potential targets that you can engage. So please be aware of that. So all in all, as a new player, you should focus on flying any of the Tech 1 frigates to start with. The Rifter, the Atron, the Merlin, the Tristan, Tormentor, Condor, all perfectly fine examples. Now let me explain in detail what I mean when I say juicy target, because this is the key to getting fights. Juicy target means making yourself accessible as a target to the majority of players currently roaming around you. If you are the type of pilot who enjoys the thrill of the hunt, chasing down opponents and forcing them to either fight you or stay there and die, then you can fly something more shiny and specialized. However, if you want a real fight and a challenge, then this approach is for you. That's why I recommend flying Tech 1 stuff, because when pilots see a Tech 1 frig or Desi on D-scan, they are a lot more eager to engage you because everyone wants kill mails and kill marks. And if you play it right, that's also when everyone will underestimate you. I've been in countless situations where I've fought ships above my class or superior to mine, and I've come out on top simply because I had the right fit for the job. To give you an example, I fought a Harpy in my Trasher, and by all rights the Harpy should have destroyed me because it has similar DPS, only it's a lot better tanked. However, because I had 2 small newts fitted instead of 1, before I went pop, I managed to newt out his cap instead, and after he was basically dead in the water and me with half structure left, just finish him off. Sure, you will get a lot of people in shiny stuff chasing you, but if you're smart, you can avoid them. Pick your fights wisely. Location. Now that we have a ship to queue with, let's talk location. Actually, we're not going to go into details here because I will go into details for each region independently, but for now, we can say that location is debatable. In the sense that, depending on knowledge of game mechanics and preferences, personally, I consider low sec to be the best place for PvP. Others will say it's null sec. Arguably, once you learn how the game works, you might find high sec to be the most accessible from easy PvP. See? Debatable. Most new players go to low sec because progression-wise, that is the next level after high sec. But if you want to keep your security status intact, then you can either go to null sec, wormhole space, or even stay in high sec, provided you ward deck someone, or join a corp who ward decks people. Plenty of those guys around. Again, more details in later videos. So let's just skip to the next part. So for tools, let's assume we know what we're gonna fly and where we want to go. So let's talk about how we get there, what to use and what to do once we're there. For the purpose of this video, I will assume that you know how to use directional scanner. If not, then I highly recommend you go on YouTube and find a video about it because it will be crucial. Now, for solo PvP, your two best friends will be the endgame map and Z killboard. Some people prefer to use .land, but I personally recommend you to use the endgame map because it gives you real-time information about all the systems in New Eden, as well as some important information that will make your life easier. Let me show you. To open the endgame map, just press F10. And there you go. As you can see here, if you zoom in, this is the location I am at. Now, some key features about the map. If you open this little control panel right here, you'll find some a bunch of stuff that you can click on and will change the map or how you see the map. So for example, let's say I want to see average pilots in space in the last 30 minutes. Boom, click that, there you go. Look at the system and already 43 pilots in system in the last 40 minutes. And we got a bunch of stuff. We got signal fields, we got escape pods destroyed in the last 24 hours, in the last hour, jumps of the last hour. Awesome, awesome information. We go back to security status, so we know which is high sec, which is low sec, which is null sec. Super awesome, right? And easy to use. You can have autopilot with avoided systems. My information will show my assets and systems. Makes it easier to ascertain where you have stuff. It will also show you systems you visited, which is not really all that important. Man, I've been around the place. Okay. One awesome more detail, let me just fix that real quick, is my corp member is now in space. I only have one active corp member and he's tough, but yeah, that's a cool little feature if you want to walks people. Yeah, it will highlight your location with some bookmarks. But getting back to what's important, the most important things will be statistics. This is where you will go to find information. So key information that you will need. Say you want to enter low sec, right? But you don't want to get blown up by a gate cam. So what do? First and foremost, let's say you are in, no, that's a bad system. Okay, perfect. Let's say you are in Onamon, right? And you want to enter low sec via Kanaka. To determine if there's a gate camp or not, the easiest way is to check for average pilots in space in the last 40 minutes. 26 pilots, that's quite a huge number. And to look for escape pods destroyed in the last hour. One pod, which means technically it's not really a gate camp. Because here's the thing, most gate camps are so good and good put these days that generally they kill pods as well. So if you want to know if there's a gate camp or not, you should look for escape pods destroyed in the last hour. If you see a number that's bigger than 3 or 4 in the last hour, I would say that's possible to be a gate camp. But if you see only 1 or 2, then there's just average kills in the system. Another way to look at it is, like I said, is the average pilots in space, which should tell you some good information, and also ships destroyed in the last hour. If you see a big number, then yeah, that's probably a good way to know that there's either a gate camp or a large fleet in system that's causing havoc. But these are your go-to informations to know that if there's a gate camp or not. So other stuff that you can look for is jumps to the last tower to try to determine which of the systems are more populated, so to speak. And of course, if you're looking for pew, because that's the main reason why I'm doing this video, is to look for pew, we go back to average pilots in space in the last 30 minutes, and that will most often tell you that what system is more densely populated and active with pvp-ers. So you want to go towards where you see more people in space, because that will be your higher chance to find fights. And also a good information tool is number of pilots currently docked and active. It just shows you the AFK people, but it's also important to know that if you see a lot of people in a system as docked, so for example in Aluri, you can tell that there's usually either a big corporation or a big alliance that's set up there. So what you can do is either avoid that system or scout it out and try to learn the locals. I will get to that more in detail later on. So this is pretty much how you operate the map to find out some useful and crucial information about how to PvP. Next up will be Z-Kill. Now, Z-Kill is used by a lot of good PvPers as the standard go-to tool to determine your enemies in space, in that system, in that location, in that time. So what do players do? Well, one example would be if you enter a system, right, and you know you want to camp that system or you're looking for a fight in that system. What you can do is either place every pilot that you see in local, you place them in Z-Kill, and you try to get some information about them. Information being, you try to determine which of these pilots are PvP capable and which of them will actually engage in PvP, so you know what to expect. So let me show you how this works. So for example, if I type in here my good buddy Jim Bob, which I know he exists because he's my corpmate, you will see that he is an active PvPer with 14,000 ships destroyed and only 3,000 ships lost. Now, bear in mind, this is not making him, I'm not trying to advertise his kill bar or something, but it's just the first name that sprang to mind. So, if any other PvPer looks at his kill bar, he will know what to expect because he's an active PvPer. So, that's one way of using Z-Kill. Another way is if you're just you and him in the system, right? Let's say if I'm just me with Jim Bob and I'm not friends with Jim Bob, he's my enemy. So what I want to do is if I see a ship on D-scan directional scanner that is not mine, then I can assume it's his. Or even if we're three other people in local, and I know for a fact the other two people are not PvPers, if I see another ship in system that I consider it to be PvP capable, then I'm going to assume it's Jim Bob's. So what I want to do is I'm going to take that ship, its name, and I'm going to scroll through Jim Bob's losses and try to determine what type of fit he's running. Now I'm not going to click on any of these ships because I don't want to reveal public information about my good friend here, but you get the idea, right? You just stroll through the player's losses and you try to find the most recent loss he had with the ship that you see on these scans. So that way, if you click on any of these losses, you will see his fittings. So if you look at his fittings and you know how he's flying that ship, you get an instant advantage in your fight against him. Because one example would be, you may be running a scram cutting ship, he may be running a brawling ship. Therefore, you should have the advantage. If he's running a cutting setup and you're a scram cutter, then he might have the advantage, and so on and so forth. So that's how player uses Z-Kill. 1, determine if the pilot is PvP capable and PvP ready. 2, try to learn how he flies a certain ship that you suspect he might be in that system in the current time. So before I stop this video right here, because as I mentioned, this is just the main video about how to find fights. The other parts that will cover each section of space will be separate. I want to talk a bit about wormhole space. First and foremost, I want to apologize that I don't have any actual footage of me dabbling around in wormhole space. So you're just gonna have to make do with this only picture right here, and just have to listen to me talk. But I can safely say that I've spent at least half of my entire EvE career dabbling around in wormhole space, so you can listen to my words because I know what I'm speaking. So V space or J space is tricky to say the least. I do not recommend you explore V space for solo fights, or should I say challenging fights. The kind of fights that give you the thrill of the hunt, chase, and beatdown. No, the best you can get is 99% of the time is either just a kill mail of a mining ship, hauler, or smaller exploration frigate, or your own ass handed to you by the locals. So, a couple of years ago, CCP introduced a new rig called the Higgs rigs. If you're not sure what a rig is a module that you fit onto your ship in the rig slots that will get destroyed if you remove them. Now, the Higgs rig will double the mass of a ship, generally used on battleships. That changed wormhole life as we know it, in the sense that you no longer had to live with a constant open door to your system, meaning people can cycle wormhole connections easier and faster. Didn't get any of that? Okay, let me explain it easier. Every wormhole space, every V space has one or multiple connections to other V spaces through static or unknown random wormholes. Before, you used to be able to find open connections to populated systems easier, so hunting for ratters and miners was a good sport and a good way to make loot, because people couldn't really protect themselves so well. Now, when the denizens of a V-space system want to rat and farm, you can be sure they close up or at least make it so it's too risky for enemies to come in their system, thus reducing solo PvP to a slim to none chance. Basically, every wormhole that pops up in space has a mass limit and a time limit. So the time limit isn't the problem because most wormholes last for 24 hours. The mass limit was the problem till Higgs rigs came along. Basically, the average wormhole connections that used to pop up from V space to K space meaning high sec, low sec, and no sec, were around the 2 million mass limit or more, depending on the connection. So an average battleship has a 200k mass. If you fit Higgs rigs, that'll double, which means that if you go back and forth through wormhole connections several times, you can either close that wormhole if you're good enough, or you can reduce it to critical status, which means that when an enemy ship might use that wormhole to jump in, they risk being stuck in that system that you're in. So most players will not take the risk and therefore will not enter your system, and that will make your system protected, so to speak, so you can farm and mine in peace. So again, you might find someone stupid to kill or someone who's bait and they kill you, but you won't find the type of fights that you can learn from and enjoy it. Also, before I forget, local doesn't work in VSpace, in case you don't know. What that means is you can type in it, but it never shows you all the people in the system. So you are always unsure as to if there is someone else in there with you, or multiple people in there with you, or if you're in that system alone. So, kind of spooky, huh? Yeah. However, there is an alternative if you must pew-pew in VSpace. That is Terra. Terra is a relatively new system introduced by CCP sometime before Citadels, where NPCs have built stations in the system. At the time, it was all the hype because people would normally live in POSs in VSpace. POSs are, or POSs as other people call it, are basically mobile homes of sort of like a station but with a force field bubble that you go into the bubble because you have the password, and you can place your ship and ship hangar arrays and stuff like that, but still basically be out in space. So people could de-scan you down and stuff like that. So that's how people used to live in wormhole space, and it was good, but you had to constantly keep manage of fuel and basically make your POS keep its force field up, and it was costly, but the cost would be offset by you routing and mining and stuff like that. So people were going out to farm and rat a lot more often without the protection that you can roll your connection wormhole easier. So that meant that people could actually die a lot easier and get hunted down by solo or gang PvPers. But nowadays things have changed with citadels, and also, like I said, when Terra came out, that Terra had stations, which means people can dock in a structure that couldn't be destroyed. Obviously it was all the hype. So people used to flock to Terra for finding a wormhole system to live in and finding good fights, but that didn't necessarily make the system less challenging. No, and in fact, Terra system is a lot more challenging because there are a lot of people living there, and the constant threat of people ganging up on you is greatly increased because local doesn't work, like I mentioned earlier, so you never know what's going to happen. What you can do is try to play station games, but that rarely goes in your favor, especially as a new player, so I really don't recommend it. But Terra is the place to be if you're looking for a fight. But again, I cannot and will not guarantee you won't get blobbed there, because, you know, people blob. So all in all, I don't recommend VSpace, especially for a new player if you're looking for a good, clean, solid fights. Now, with all that being said, make sure you subscribe or watch my channel for the upcoming parts continuing from this video, where I will be covering in detail how to find fights in high sec, low sec, and no sec. So stay tuned and I'll catch you guys later.